Welcome. This is Settle for Three. New name, new face. Cam, Evan, I'm Joey. This show used to be called Third Saturday in October. I think you guys all know why by now because Cam and Evan root for the two worst teams in NCAA, but I'm a Gator. So, Evan, real quick, Cam told you yesterday I'm a Gator fan. How'd that make you feel?
It made me feel like we should be second guessing who the producer is on this show, but
Okay.
I figured the qualifications are there enough, so we'll let you work it out.
So Cam came to my place for Thanksgiving 2 weeks ago, and he was telling me about your guys' podcast, and I'm like, I really want to do this. And he was like, sell me on it. And I sold him on it. He's like, okay, but I got to talk to my boyfriend, Evan, real quick. And then he texted me on Monday and said, you're in, guy. So
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, look, it was a blessing to have somebody who actually knows what the heck they're doing to want to come in and help us out. So we
I
appreciate
think what we really wanted to establish is just that the SEC is the best conference out there and nothing else.
on today's show, we got two shows this week. On this one, we're going to talk about the college football playoff. We got 4 first-round games, 1 on Friday, 3 on Saturday. So that'll be a lot of fun, and they're home games for the hosting teams. Then we'll get a little bit into some other games we're interested in. For me, it's a non-playoff bowl game, which I know you guys are interested in, but I just want to give my spiel on it. And then we'll talk about the FCS Semifinals, which is the Battle of the Dakotas and a school in Montana. And then we'll finish it off with the last word. We'll just talk about the Heisman Trophy winner. Before we kind of get into the games, let's talk a little bit about the actual playoff bracket. You can see it right here. And 12-team bracket this year, which is new. Everyone here knew that. 5 highest ranked conference champions get in, and the next 7 highest ranked teams make the playoffs. So we have our 4 conference champions, Arizona State out of I almost said Pac-12, not the Pac-12, the Big 12. We got Boise State out of the Mountain West, Georgia out of the SEC, and Oregon out of the Big 10. Our other conference champion is Clemson, 9-3 Clemson. I guess they're 10-3. And they are the last seed because they were the lowest ranked. And then we have all our at-large teams underneath it. And then you'll see the 5, 6, 7, and 8 seeds all get home games. So that's Texas, Ohio State, Penn State, Notre Dame. And then, so you guys talked about this last week on Third Saturday in October, but I kind of just want to get each of your thoughts real quickly on how the bracket shaped out. Cam, why don't you start us off with that?
They got it majorly wrong. The system is completely broken. It's an atrocity that it's built the way that it is.
It's a little negative.
Yep. Well, I'll go ahead and tear apart the couple of huge points. The fact that you have what is Arizona State ranked, I think they're number 13 or something. Yeah, they don't deserve to have a bye. That's ridiculous to have those top 4 seeds that are just dedicated to buys. I understand it was basically the Notre Dame rule to make sure that they couldn't receive a bye because they're not in the conference, but it's asinine to have it designed the way that it is. Outside of that, I think it's also stupid to have a 5th conference champion that was outside of the top 12. They were number 15 or 16, I believe, with Clemson being ranked number 12 as just a general sense of it had to happen. The system, one of my very first things growing up, life isn't fair. The college football playoff isn't fair. I don't think that Clemson winning the ACC championship deserves a spot in a playoff. I think there were other teams, even if you rule Alabama out and put Ole Miss in, I'm perfectly happy with that.
Evan?
I mean, here's the thing. Do I think the top 12 teams are in the playoff? Absolutely not. Do I think that the committee actually stuck to what they said they were going to do? And by that, I mean, were they going to penalize SMU for making the conference championship and then losing, all that kind of stuff? They got it right. They actually stuck to what they said they were going to do, which everybody was kind of. It was fortunate that SMU kind of came back in that game and didn't get absolutely blown out, or that would have there were no good ways for that committee to finalize this bracket.
The scenario that happens if Clemson maintains that 24-7 lead at half,
Nobody wants that. That would have been just absolute turmoil going into
that's doomsday for as far as the rankings are concerned.
every crazy thing that could have happened this season to make this first year of a 12-team playoff, to make it absolutely terrible for the committee, happened.
I think that's something we can dive into a little bit more with the next episode. Why don't we switch to something positive, and that's 4 on-campus games. Friday night, it all starts. 10 seed Indiana versus 7 seed Notre Dame. Notre Dame is 7.5-point favorite. The over-under is 51.5. If you're looking for an edge there, both teams excellent against the spread. Indiana has no ranked wins, and they lost to the only ranked team they played, 38-15. And the Irish have wins over 4 teams that were ranked when they played. Only Army is ranked now. So I guess, Cameron, the point I'm trying to make is both these teams got in. They're both 11-1. They both have soft schedules.
Agreed. Indiana's only game against a relevant opponent was a 38-15 shellacking against Ohio State at Ohio State. And Notre Dame, as you called out, lost the inexcusable game in week 2 or 3 to North Illinois. Which, congrats to Northern Illinois. That's awesome you won. That's still a pathetic loss. Here we are. So for this game in particular, weather really defines how this game actually goes. At the time of kickoff, it's anticipated to be about 20 degrees, and there's been snow for the last 4 days straight. They're not expecting the field to be absolutely covered, but I'm just expecting a cold, hard field to go out and play on. It's pretty slick as well. So all that said, it will be sloppy. I don't think passing is what you're going to be leaning on in this game. I think running the ball is where it's going to be heavily emphasized. That said, Indiana has the number 1 rushing defense in the country. Penn State has the number 10 rushing offense in the country. It's really going to be a great matchup there. I really think this comes down to Riley Leonard's legs and Jeremiah Love, the star running back for that Notre Dame offense, and how well they're able to slowly and methodically move that ball on the Indiana defense that I do think is actually a good defense, even with their strength of schedule. All that said, I really would put this into Notre Dame's favor, I think. I like the Notre Dame offensive line. I think Riley Leonard is enough to get them off balance. The only note that I want to throw in there, if Indiana can start our fight, let's say that they go up 10-0, I don't know that Notre Dame is designed to come from behind.
Okay, I'll start off first and say, yeah, Notre Dame is probably going to take this game. To the points made earlier, Indiana's played 1 team this year and just got blown out. The weather fact on this one, I mean, let's be honest, this is really a home game for both teams, right? It's in Indiana for both of them. The problem is Indiana is a pass first kind of team, and the weather is not going to be good for that. On the other side, you're right. Jeremiah Love, he's probably going to put this team on his back. They're just too good of a rounded team from a passing perspective and a running game. They know how to spread the ball around Notre Dame. And I don't think Indiana is really going to be able to keep up. Now, I will say on the other side, Indiana does have the number 1, I believe, red zone offense in the country. I think the problem is going to be getting to the red zone. Yeah, I think Notre Dame's just going to stop them. They've gotten better throughout the entire season ever since that loss to Northern Illinois. So I don't see Notre Dame having too much trouble with this.
All right, moving on. 11th ranked SMU at 6th ranked Penn State. Nittany Lions are 8.5-point favorites. Good chance here to take SMU to cover. They're 8-5 against the spread this year. Penn State's just 6-7, which, like we'll get to with Clemson coming up, they blow out the teams they're supposed to be, and then they're a little more mediocre against, maybe Big Ten competition or, the better teams in the league. Backup quarterback, Bo Prabula. So this guy's the backup QB. He announces he's in the transfer portal. He left the team. This guy isn't your I'm only coming in at the end of games QB. I mean, he has 9 total touchdowns. I think he has 5 in the air, 4 on the ground. He's a change of pace quarterback. Penn State used him. If Starr gets injured, I don't know who the third stringer is. I don't know if you guys do.
The really hard part is looking at this. I mean, imagine playing in a playoff, right? And God forbid you run into a Carson back type scenario where your starting quarterback goes down. You're looking at your second string and he's just not there. It's a shame, and to be honest, I just hope that injury isn't the reason that we see a Penn State go down. That would be an absolute shame.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, I like Penn State in this. Drew Aller is a great quarterback. You're right, Bo. He was that kind of we're on 5-yard line, and we need to get it in. He can do it with his legs. He can make those short passes. That's an issue, right? Especially on the other side when you're preparing defensively. You don't have to prepare for two quarterbacks anymore. You know exactly what's going to happen. James Franklin is going to have to stick with Drew Aller. On the other side, SMU, I just don't think that they can get it done. They had a great comeback in the Clemson game. At the end of the day, they couldn't close it. I mean, they had all the makings of that comeback to take it to overtime, and then just blown coverage, take a field goal, they're out of it. SMU, honestly, I don't want to say they're lucky, but on the other hand, they are kind of lucky even being in the college football playoffs at this point, just given how that Clemson game started. Penn State's taking this one. I don't see them having too much difficulty with it.
One thing I really like in this game, so kind of like the Indiana Notre Dame game, weather is going to play a factor here. It's going to be 26 degrees and snow. The northern games, especially for SMU, where I had to look it up earlier, the average temperature for their games has been 75 and sun.
Yeah, it's going to be fun coming through Dallas, all the way up to Penn.
It snows in Dallas sometimes.
I have to focus in a bit on the rushing game. Penn State's rushing attack, they've got two great guys in Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen. I think they're too much to handle. But SMU does, on the other end, have Rashard Smith with 1,270 yards in a year. So there is a rushing attack on the SMU side that I do look at and think they could be competitive. I think Penn State does pull away. But honestly, it might be a little bit closer than you guys think.
Cameron, this is probably the best way for James Franklin to have an intro to the playoffs. Kind of being even at home. Yes, it's SMU. Exactly. I don't want to call it a tune-up game because this kind of has the making of a trap game in it for Penn State. But if you had to pick somebody to play first, I'd love an SMU.
Let's just move on. 12 seed Clemson, they were the final conference champion, but because they were ranked the lowest, they're the 12 seed. They will be in Austin against 5 seed Texas. When you think about it, Texas is undefeated against everyone except teams named Georgia. They lost twice to Georgia. Clemson's a unique case because they have 3 losses, but only one of them was in the ACC, which is how they got to the conference title game. They lost to 2 SEC games. They lost to Georgia at the beginning of the year, and then they lost to South Carolina. They looked awful in that South Carolina game. Clemson is 6-7 against the spread, which, like Penn State, means they blow out the teams they're supposed to, which is probably those 6 wins against the spread. And then those 7 where they don't cover, those are probably against ACC competition and the big boys that they lost to. So I don't know what Clemson's going to show up. Cam, what do you make of this 11-point spread? You think it's high? You think it's just right?
Isn't this a 9-game matchup just from the start? And then you add home field advantage on top of it, and it only gets worse. This game is decided, I think, by Klubnik versus the Texas secondary. Cade Klubnik actually has 3,300 yards and 33 touchdowns. The problem is Texas has the number 1 passing defense in the country. You match those 2 up against each other, I really don't think this is a great pairing. Texas has also done an excellent job this entire season of maintaining big plays down the field. I think they're one of the top in the country in being able to stop those or prevent them from occurring. In order for Clemson to win this game, you got to keep the Texas offense off the field. And I think the number 1 thing you need to do, you need to get to Quinn Ewers early and force Sark to think about swapping quarterbacks. I think the debate is actually going to be how you potentially win this game, because once you have fans cheering for it, neither quarterback is going to be very confident in that moment. I think that's how this kind of has to go. In order for Texas, just score. Over the last 4 weeks, they've only put up over 21 once. That's an issue when you have that much sheer talent on the roster. And then last but not least, just get pressure on Klubnik. Don't let him sit back there and tear you apart. He can do it.
Yeah, Texas all day. Look, we talked about this in a previous episode on Saturday in October. Ohio State and Texas have the most talented teams in all of college football. That just hands down. This is Quinn Ewers' last game at Texas, and it's at Texas, right? That's going to play a lot into it. I don't think he's going to have too much trouble. Now, on the flip side, we've talked a lot about players, a little bit about coaches, but let's be honest, the X factor for this game for Clemson is the fact that Dabo Swinney has been here so many times before. He knows how to play these playoff games. He knows how to get his players ready to play these kinds of games. That being said, Texas, they deserve, right? We deserve a lot. If the seeding and the rules were a little bit different, they're a top 3 team, right? All the days of the week, and or at least top 4. And Clemson's just not even close.
The final game, this is really a toss-up game. It's the 8 versus 9 seed. I think there's many out there, including someone on the show, that would say the game should be in Knoxville. That's just going out on a limb, but it's in Columbus, so it is what it is. Snow showers in the forecast for Friday. The high on Saturday is 30, so it's going to stick. Evan, I'm going to let you take over here, but the only thing I want to say is these two teams they're the Jekyll and Hyde of college football. Tennessee is a team that you don't know half to half what team's going to show up. Ohio State, I'm not sold on them. I mean, they do Ohio State things and beat all the the bad teams, but like they almost lost to Nebraska. They needed a goal line stand. They beat Indiana good. They beat Penn State in Happy Valley. Great win. They only lost by 1 in Eugene, Oregon. And I think that was Will Howard slid and time ran out. I think that's how that game ended. They just have games where against Michigan, that's the worst Michigan team this millennium.
All right, here's the thing. Weather's going to be the big factor in this one, right? But Tennessee's biggest strength this year was the downfall of Ohio State versus Michigan. That run game, Ohio State couldn't stop it. Michigan, I think, almost put up 250 rushing yards against Ohio State in that game. That's going to be the biggest factor. This is going to be a run straight up the middle type of deal where Tennessee is really, really fast in getting up to the line. All that being said, as far as the home field advantage goes, I don't even know if Ohio State has it right now. You're going to have a lot of Tennessee fans there, and then half the Ohio State fans want Ryan Day gone. This is he has to win the national championship this year to stay at his job. If he loses this game, he's going to be fired that day. I almost guarantee it.
I've made this comment for years. If you get handed the keys to a Ferrari, it's easy to drive the car fast. When Urban Meyer left Ohio State, the most talented roster in all of college football was Ohio State. There wasn't a conversation. There weren't two ways around it. Nick Saban is the best coach, and generally speaking, had one of the best recruiting teams. But if you look at raw talent, Ohio State's been the top tier for quite some time now. All that said, you have that much talent on your roster. This year is no different at all. They're literally paying for their talent. We have the $20 million roster.
Yep, $20 million.
Yep. Bringing in Quinshad Jenkins, bringing in Caleb Downs from Alabama. There are a number of players on that roster. Will Howard. There's a number of players on that roster that are just sheer talent. And the fact that they haven't won those couple of games, especially with Michigan games, just doesn't bode well long term. We can get into a whole segment on just Ryan Day.
Yeah.
But
I opened up a can of worms here.
I even have in my notes, I think Tennessee's going to win this game. I think the answer is going to be Dylan Sampson, SEC's leading running back. He's looked fantastic all year. Quinshad Judkins and Travion Henderson have played great, averaging about the same as what Dylan Sampson is. I just don't think they quite have it. And even though Ohio State has Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Egbuka, you can't go deep. It's not a game you can go deep. Right. All that said, Tennessee, I really like him. I also think that this is the end for Ryan Day. If it happens.
I disagree on that, but I think Tennessee does win. All right. Well, moving on. Those are the first round games. And then we'll get into the next round next week. We'll recap all of these, and we'll look ahead to those quarterfinal games, which will be at both sites. So moving on, games we're watching. So I'm just going to get my spiel out of the way. The Gasparilla Bowl in Tampa, okay? We all know that these bowl games are trash. Gasparilla Bowl, it's in Tampa. Florida fans are going to pack it out. Florida started the year 3-3, okay? They had double-digit home losses to Miami and Texas A&M. Billy Napier was going to get fired. But they've turned it around. They beat a ranked LSU team. They beat a ranked playoff contender. They knocked Ole Miss out of the playoffs, essentially. Ole Miss would have been an at-large team at 10-2. I mean, they certainly would have gotten serious consideration. They knocked them out, and then they beat the Sisters of the Blind over in Tallahassee to finish the season. But I'm looking forward to this game just because there'll be a lot of hype towards next year. Billy Napier is going to get another year because of DJ Lagway. He's a really talented quarterback, and just as a Gator fan, like it'll give us a little hope going into next year. So, and Tulane's missing a bunch of players, so I'm just looking forward to that. It really has no significance besides it's an 8th win.
Oh, I just got two things. Hats off to Billy Napier. I mean, going into this gauntlet of a season, I mean, they had the worst schedule in college football history, which is going to be outshined next year by Wisconsin. Yep. Billy Napier has to even be in a bowl, even one that's, I mean, just not even a good one. He has to be absolutely over the moon with his team.
Yeah.
And he is safe because of DJ Lagway.
Moving on to more important games, FCS Semifinals, 3 teams from the Dakotas and Montana State. And I'm going to let you guys have a way at this, but all I want to say is South Dakota State beat South Dakota, which beat North Dakota State, which beat South Dakota State. So wrap your head around that. And Evan, you were the one that mentioned yesterday you wanted to talk about this game. So why don't you start with whichever game you want to start with first?
All right. Well, I just want to say kind of a general sweeping thing about these teams on here real quick. Since 2011, the FCS championships, 9 of them have been won by North Dakota State. On the other side, South Dakota State is going for a three-peat here. They won the last 2 years. The FCS has been so lopsided on this. And by the way, there's only been one other team that's won in that period of time. All that to say, this could be some really exciting football. It's not one that gets a lot on there. Go ahead, Cameron.
No. I was just going to ask, who's the other team? I actually have no idea. Was it one enough? Was it South Dakota or Montana State?
No, it was the other teams.
Random.
Okay. Yeah. It was somebody else completely random, but they did win twice. There's only been 3 teams since 2011 that have won this championship. Montana State, if you actually look into their stats, they have some really crazy stuff going on here. Montana State, their quarterback has 2,500 yards and 28 touchdowns. Their running back, Humphrey, he's got almost 1,400 yards and 14 touchdowns. That's a lot of touchdowns between 2 people coming into this game. There's a reason that they're the only undefeated team in the FCS championship right now. I'm just going to put it out there now. I know we're not talking about the finals. I do think Montana State's going to take it all. If we're doing actual picks for these two, I think North Dakota State is going to beat out South Dakota State and play Montana State for the championship.
Cab.
So what I've got, South Dakota State, North Dakota State, prior meeting, 13-9. North Dakota State pulled away of late. But beating a team twice in a season is really hard. Statistically, these teams are actually pretty close. The edge in quarterback goes to Cam Miller at 28 touchdowns and 2,900 yards. Evan, these stats are just absolutely mind-boggling.
Yeah, but hold on, real quick. I just want to point something out. For reference, up to this point, Dylan Gabriel, who I think is probably the best quarterback in the country, has 28 touchdowns this year.
Yeah, and he's played lights out, 1,000%. And then you have the South Dakota State running back with 1,100 yards. And then on the defensive end, you've got Eli Mostert with 7 sacks and 28 tackles on the year. And South Dakota State is only allowing 11.9 points per game. That said, I'm actually going to take South Dakota State in that game. I do think that this will go to South Dakota State the way team wins. Montana State, Evan, could not agree more. Montana State is averaging over 300 yards a game on the ground, almost 200 through the air, 500 yards of offense. I just don't think any team is really stopping that. Montana State for the win.
Montana State, best team in college.
My prediction is going to be that 2 teams from the Dakotas are going to play for a title. So whichever 2 of the 3 of those are.
Actually, that's not a very good guess. That means you had to win against both of us. We're saying Montana.
Yeah, you're saying Montana State's out, huh? Well, I love it to them. Let's put it this way. We talked a lot about cold weather. These are 4 teams that are used to playing in some darn cold weather.
Yeah. All right, guys. Final segment. It's called The Last Word. And for today, we're going to talk about the Heisman Trophy presentation very briefly. Travis Hunter won it. As we know, he plays both sides of the ball. He's going to be a top 5 pick. 7 games with at least 100 receiving yards and 5 games with a forced turnover. So pretty impressive. Ashton Jeanty from Boise State. I mean, he's the reason during the playoff. So give him credit for that. He's 132 yards shy of owning the single season rushing record. Now, the caveat is Barry Sanders, I think, only played 12 games or 13 games. I don't know if they played in a bowl game back then or if that counted, if the stats counted in bowl games, but
it would have counted in a bowl game, but still.
So Jeanty's going to get it done in 14 games. I mean, his worst game this year, he's had 127 yards on the ground. And he needs 132. So I think he'll get it, in the quarterfinals. Whether they advance or not, I think he'll be the record holder by the end of the game. But just, I guess, briefly from each of you, the last word, what do you think? Did Travis deserve it? Or was Jeanty snubbed?
Jalen, go ahead.
You don't deserve anything. Life lessons of Cameron. You earn things. Travis Hunter pulled both ways in the ball the entire season. Looked great both ways. He's probably a top 20 receiver and probably a top 10 corner in the game.
1,360 snaps.
To put it kindly, the amount of athletic excellence that he had to play with the entire season to earn that spot, I don't know how you can take it away. And I'm going to go one step further. You earn things. I think Christian McCaffrey earned a Heisman over Derrick Henry. He looked incredible and was all over the place the season that Derrick won it, but Derrick deserved it because he was in the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
I truly believe Travis Hunter earned that trophy, and they could not have gotten it more right.
Evan?
Yep. I don't know why this is so much of a question in people's mind. Yeah, Ashton Jeanty, just phenomenal, record-breaking. He's going to be probably top 10 draft pick, going into next year. I don't understand why people are hating on Travis Hunter so much. Imagine playing that many snaps, and not only do you stay healthy enough to actually compete the entire season, the hits, but you're ranked top 10 in both positions that you play. I think he's a top 5 on defense right now.
Yep.
The fact that so many people are upset, I get it. Ashton Jeanty, amazing running back. He was kind of the highlight of the season that we kept seeing on shows and everything. But Travis Hunter, hats off to him. 100% deserved this.
I do want to make one comment on Ashton Jeanty. What an amazing season it was. Of course, to be from the G5 and represent the way that you did, to have, I think it was a 200-yarder close to it on Oregon. I mean, truly an amazing season. And I will never discredit anything there. I think this was just, as I said, an athletic excellence from Travis Hunter, and he earned it. And then, of course, the Heisman Trophy. But I think Ashton Jeanty deserved it. I think this was just, as I said, an athletic excellence from Travis Hunter, and he earned it. And then, of course, the Heisman Trophy. But I think this was just, as I said, an athletic excellence from Travis Hunter, and he earned it. And then, of course, the Heisman Trophy. But I think this was just, as I said, an athletic excellence from Travis Hunter, and he earned it. And then, of course, the Heisman Trophy. But I think this was just, as I said, an athletic excellence from Travis Hunter, and he earned it. And then, of course, the Heisman Trophy. But I think this was just, as I said, an athletic excellence from Travis Hunter, and he earned it. And then, of course, the Heisman Trophy. But I think this was just, as I said, an athletic excellence from Travis Hunter, and he earned it. And then, of course
Ashton Jeanty, can't wait to see him at the next level.
Now, I will say one other thing on this. This is probably the most exciting Heisman race in the last few years that at least comes to mind for people paying attention to it. You don't have somebody from Alabama or Georgia up there.
Yep.
This is it's two teams that one of them is in the playoffs, but really, who thinks about Boise State any other year, if we're being completely honest, and another team that could have easily been in the playoffs. So.
And remember, Hunter was the number 1 recruit in the country. He flipped from FCU to Jackson State. But Phil's got to be the only Heisman winner that played at an FCS school, right?
Definitely, at least to my knowledge, the only one that's played in an HBCU as well.
Yeah.
HBCU, yeah.
That's history on itself. But anyways, guys, that's the last word. Before we go, we'll have a second episode coming out this week where we're going to let Cameron dive into the flaws of the college football playoff. And so that'll be coming out a few days after you watch this one. But guys, this was fun. I'm going to make sure all this recorded before we move on and take the next one. But I feel like we had a good time. Did you guys have a good time?
It's all right. I'll do it again.